studios of WDBO in sunny Orlando, Florida, here's talk radio host Joe Kelly's Behind the News podcast, where Joe and his listeners and guests discuss the most important issues of the day, plus the crazy and bizarre stories of the infamous Florida man. Here's Joe Kelly.
Coming up within 15 minutes, you're going to hear something remarkably refreshing, very refreshing, as a reporter apologizes to Governor Ron DeSantis on the air for misreporting something about DeSantis and that woman who was fired and arrested for falsifying the COVID numbers in the state of Florida. You're going to hear that. You're going to want to hang on for it. You never hear a reporter apologizing, but you're going to hear it right here on this show coming up within the next 10 to 12 minutes. So stay right where you are. But first, we're going to begin tonight talking about Jack Teixeira. Jack Teixeira is an airman first class for the Massachusetts Air National Guard, arrested late this afternoon in Massachusetts. He is believed to be the leaker of classified documents from the Pentagon. He's 21. He enlisted in the 102nd Intelligence Wing of the Massachusetts Air National Guard back in July and then promoted to airman first class. So this guy obviously showed signs of intelligence. Thus, they put him in military intelligence. Now, if you listen to this show regularly, you know that, several weeks ago, a month ago, I argued against the death penalty. And to be clear, I oppose the death penalty, not for, liberal, soft on crime reasons. I believe that only God should be able to take people's lives. Yes, I realize that criminals take people's lives. I also oppose that. And I believe, frankly, that life in jail and then dying behind bars is a worse punishment than the death penalty. I would welcome death if I was in jail for life. I would just want to die before spending the rest of my life in jail. So that is my position on the death penalty. But when we discussed this thing a few weeks ago, I did not mention, because there was no need to bring it up, that I have one exception for the death penalty, and that's treason. And what this Air National Guardsman has done, if convicted, I'm going to put everything is with a caveat of if convicted. If convicted, I believe this guy should be taken straight to a firing squad, straight to an electric chair, straight to a guillotine, straight to the gallows, straight to whatever way we can kill him the fastest. I think an example needs to be made of this guy, and I'm going to explain why. Coming up after the next commercial break here, you're going to hear remarkable audio of a reporter apologizing to Governor DeSantis for erroneously reporting on something about Governor DeSantis just because she wanted to believe it. That'll be coming up after the next break. Now, let me explain to you why and how I see a difference in the death penalty for Jack Teixeira, the airman, the Massachusetts Air National Guardsman, who has been arrested now and believed to have been the person responsible for the leak of classified documents from the Pentagon. When the state or the nation executes someone, they execute that someone on our behalf. I'll give you an example. Last night, at almost exactly this time, it is now 6:14 p.m. Last night at 6:15 p.m., 56-year-old Louis Gaskin was pronounced dead. We, you and me, and the state of Florida executed him last night here in Florida. That was last night. Now, what did he do? You got to go way back to the to 1980s, late 1980s. He killed a couple. He killed a man and a wife. He was called the Ninja Killer because he dressed in black and he fantasized about being a martial arts expert. But he was executed last night. Now, this may sound a little callous, but of all of the victims of the Ninja Killer, we're talking about 2 people dead. So maybe a dozen, maybe 20, maybe 30 if you count extended family members and closest friends. are affected by this. Did you know the deceased? Did you know the victims? Did you know the killer? No, you didn't know them. Yet the state executed him on your behalf. Whereas Jack Teixeira, who is the airman who has leaked this intel information, he has committed a crime against 330 million American men, women, and children by committing an act of espionage, of betraying our nation. You have committed a crime against every single American. Every one of us is a victim because of this guy, Jack Teixeira. That is why I believe he should be executed, and as quickly, expeditiously as possible, put him on trial. If convicted, execute him immediately out back behind the courthouse and make it public. Make an example of him so that people will think twice before committing a crime against every living American citizen. 844-580-WDBO. You can call it up right now at 844-580-9326 or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
The guy that did that leak, as much damage as he's done around the world, he should get 15 to 20 years at least.
We're talking about the Airman First Class from the National Guard out of Massachusetts. The man who is accused of leaking that Pentagon intelligence.
He should get life in prison, nothing less.
Yeah, you can join us right now at 844-580-WDBO, 844-580-9326, or use the open mic in the WDBO app. I want you to hear this. The Young Turks is an online news organization. They're a liberal progressive organization, and one of their anchor reporters, Anna Kasparian, apologized today to Governor Ron DeSantis. This is going to be very refreshing to listen to. This is about 90 seconds. Take a listen.
I want to correct all of those errors that we had previously reported. And I want to be clear that out of everyone who works on the main show, the only person who should be held responsible for that is me. I'm the executive producer of the show, and I screwed up royally. And part of the reason why I screwed up is because I had all these biases, of course, against Ron DeSantis. And I don't really feel bad about that because I think Ron DeSantis has done some pretty terrible things in the state of Florida. But it becomes a problem when that bias blinds you to what the facts of various stories happen to be. And I should have done my due diligence. I failed to do so. And by failing to do so, I feel like I've misled the audience into thinking that Rebecca Jones is some sort of hero. Now, to be fair to myself and to be fair to other independent media sources, if you're not doing your own original reporting, you're relying on the mainstream media narrative a lot of the time. And if they're not doing their due diligence, if they're allowing their personal biases to stand in the way of actual factual reporting, well, that's unfortunately going to trickle into the way independent news sources cover these types of stories as well. Fact of the matter is, I want to make sure that I correct my errors, I get you guys accurate information, and I avoid helping someone who might be a grifter from fundraising off of our own audience members.
There you go. That is, again, Anna Kasparian from Young Turks. What she's talking about is Rebecca Jones. This is the woman who fudged the COVID numbers and was caught stealing documents from the state of Florida. She was arrested for it, but she had put out this bogus story that DeSantis had ordered her young teenage son arrested. When come to find out, her young son was worthy of being arrested because he made multiple threats against people, and he was certainly worth taking off the streets. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. John is joining us from Daytona. Hey, John, you're on WDBO.
Hey, sir. How's your evening going?
Great, thanks.
Well, I listen to you guys all the time while I'm traveling around during the day, so
thank you.
I definitely enjoy it. You spoke a little bit briefly about Floridians murdering this gentleman or killing him. You know, I assume you are Christian. You might want to study the difference between murder and killing in the Bible. Moses was well clear about the way in which people killed or murdered. There's definitely a difference. So I just wanted to bring that up. I don't think we murdered him. I think we killed him.
Well, I either way, I don't support it, John. I mean, unless it has violated all of us. I mean, I don't want someone executing somebody on behalf of me and you and everybody else, unless they have actually violated all of our rights, violated everything that we stand for. And that's what this 21-year-old airman first class with no class has done.
This is Wayne from New Smyrna Beach. He's in the employ of the Uniformed Services of the United States. Leaking information is espionage and or treason, both of which carry a death penalty. So my vote is death.
Yeah, I'm voting the same.
Treason comes with a death sentence. Make an example of that little bastard.
Yep, I totally agree.
As a Navy veteran, and of course, based upon the evidence that is disclosed to the enemy, whether it be China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, or whoever, you're going to one of two places: Leavenworth or a firing squad.
Yeah, absolutely so. 844-580-WDBO. Let's go to Mount Dora. Beautiful Mount Dora. Tom is checking in here on WDBO. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Joe. Thanks. I just wanted to comment on the reporter with the apology about Ron DeSantis. I thought it was pretty half-baked. You can substitute the A word for the baked. She says, I don't like the guy. He's done some really bad things. Okay, what bad things has he done? So you never hear that. Just Ron DeSantis is a bad guy. This is why I had my bias. Please excuse me. I think it was an insincere apology. So that's my comment.
You don't think it was there was value in the fact that she owned up to misreporting that particular story? I mean, I agree with you in that there's probably a reckoning that needs to go back a lot further with her. But when was the last time you heard any reporter address their own mistakes?
Never. And that I will say to her credit, and I'm going to give her just a small amount here, that at least she painted the reporters as being lazy and getting all their information from the mainstream media, which is true. So maybe that will cause some people to shift their opinions on how they report, but I don't think it's going to go a long way. That again, it didn't seem sincere. That it's the same as that when somebody says on the news that a political opponent, they're going to say, well, normally I disagree with so-and-so, but in this case I agree with them. Why do we need to hear the first half that normally I agree? That's a qualification that I'm still in the cool reporter zone, don't like Ron DeSantis, but here's the truth. So that's, I think it was a qualified apology.
I appreciate your call, Tom. Thank you so much. I also, like the fact that she identified that she has an anti-DeSantis bias. I mean, that to me is helpful. I wish more reporters would disclose their biases so I would understand better their reporting. I mean, it's one of the things on occasion, and I don't watch any cable news at all. I just don't obsess. I'm not one of those people. I mean, I am a news junkie. I love the news, but I check the news primarily through my phone or through audio streams like WDBO.com. But I don't watch cable news shows. But I do appreciate, for example, like a Hannity on at night on Fox News, that at least we know where Hannity is coming from. And conversely, if you're watching MSNBC, you know full well in watching MSNBC that they have a left-leaning bias. And I appreciate that going in. Same if you're listening to NPR. You know that they come at everything from the left side. Similarly, WDBO. You know that most of our talk hosts are going to come at you from the right side. We still have people that want to check in and talk about this, the leaker of information from the Pentagon. What, if convicted, punishment should he face?
It's simple, Joe. It's a hanging offense. Maybe get back to a little bit harsher things. Some of this crap might stop.
Yeah, let us know right now. You can call 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326 or use the open mic in the WDBO app. Check this out. Coming up next, a former Saturday Night Live star addresses a Tennessee City Council about homosexuality, but I promise you, It's not going to be what you think it is. Hang on. You're going to hear it coming up next.
As a Navy veteran, and of course, based upon the evidence that is disclosed to the enemy, whether it be China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, or whoever, you're going to one of two places: Leavenworth or a firing squad.
We're talking about Jack Teixeira. He's the Airman First Class, the Massachusetts Air National Guard. He was arrested today, accused of being the guy that leaked all of the Pentagon intel information.
It's simple, Joe. It's a hanging offense. Maybe get back to a little bit harsher things. Some of this crap might stop.
You can join the discussion at 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Use the open mic in the WDBO app. I'm going to take you back. Remember Saturday Night Live star Victoria Jackson? Blonde hair. She had kind of a squeaky voice. She often played like a dumb blonde type character. Well, she showed up in Franklin, Tennessee, to a Franklin, Tennessee City Council meeting where she was given 1 minute to address the City Council. And here is how she used that minute.
Victoria Jackson. God hates sodomy. He hates homosexuality. He said it's an abomination. And God hates sexual immorality. All kinds, fornication, adultery, etc. And God hates pride. Like one of the most things he hates is pride. Proverbs 11:12. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. The Lord detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this, they will not go unpunished. Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. And Sodom and Gomorrah proves that God hates sodomy and sexual immorality and pride, and it's still there. And archaeologists have uncovered it. You can go on YouTube and see. It's a frozen city in sulfur and fire and brimstone. Brimstone is sulfur. I just want to encourage this generation not to be brainwashed and to watch Beckett Cook on YouTube. Beckett Cook.
So she was gavelled out there, and what you don't see in the video is that the some sort of either security guard or police officer came and literally moved the microphone away from her so that she would be finished at the end of her 60 seconds. So she spoke for 1 minute and 13 seconds, so she got more than her share of time, it seems. So imagine you're Ron DeSantis and you're running for president, but you haven't announced that you're running for president yet. So Ron DeSantis has a new ad that you're going to hear coming up after this next break. You're going to hear his ad, so stay with us here as you can hear how a non-presidential candidate announces or campaigns, even though he has not announced. We'll have that for you coming up in a few minutes. We're talking about Jack Teixeira, the airman no class with the Massachusetts Air National Guard, arrested today in connection with the leaked documents from the Pentagon. My argument is if he is found guilty, that he should be executed and swiftly.
I don't know. What happened to the Rosenbaums? Was that their name? Were they convicted of espionage? Were they convicted of turning over classified information to foreign governments? You know, there's no longer any sense of responsibility for behavior anymore. So do what they did to the Rosenbaums. I think that was their name. Anyway, thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. You're so close. It's the Rosenbergs, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. They were executed back in the 1950s. In fact, June 19th, 1953, they're both executed on the same day. They were a married American couple accused of spying for the Soviet Union, including providing top secret information about American radar, sonar, jet propulsion engines, and nuclear weapon designs. And they were both civilians. They were civilians. And they were executed at Sing Sing Correctional Facility in New York. The first American civilians to be executed for such charges. This guy, Jack Teixeira, not a civilian. He's military. And to me, frankly, that's worse. You have taken an oath to uphold and defend the U.S. Constitution and to protect the United States of America, and you have done the exact opposite. which in my book makes you even more worthy of the death penalty than the Rosenbergs were. And if we're going to execute the Rosenbergs, I think execution is in order for Jack Teixeira, again, with a caveat that he first be found guilty. If he is not found guilty of the charges, obviously, he should not be executed. Coming up next, you're going to hear the non-presidential ad just dropped by DeSantis. You're going to hear that coming up next. And what I've got to say is the greatest open mic I have ever received in my life coming up next. Oh my gosh, I just got what has got to be the worst insult, the deepest burn anybody has ever given me before. And I'll tell you about it coming up in just a second. Plus, you got to hear this open mic. That's coming up. But first, I want to give you Ron DeSantis, his brand new ad that dropped today. So imagine you're a presidential candidate, but you have not declared as a presidential candidate. So how do you make an ad that doesn't say I'm running for president or vote for me, but still gets your name out? Well, you do it like this.
Governor Ron DeSantis is in central Michigan, heading to speak at Hillsdale College.
And he laid out his record and a roadmap.
It's great to be in Hillsdale. It's great to be in Michigan. Our task is to carry what George Washington called the torch of the sacred fire of liberty. We reject the idea that self-government can be subcontracted out to bureaucratic elite. We insist on the restoration of the timeless constitutional principles that have made this country unique so that government of, by, for the people shall not perish from this earth. My message of freedom from Florida, it requires us to hold the line, and it requires us to never, ever back down.
I love it. That's what we call just a branding message. He's just branding himself, not saying what he's going to do with that brand, but he is clearly branding himself there. Got this open mic, and I will tell you that, well, I think someone in your house or car could be stirred up by this. Take a listen.
Hey, Joe, if this guy is... Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you go. So my dogs had a lot to say about it. Oh, they're not done. Ooh. Okay. Yeah, what are you saying? What? Joe Kelly. Yeah. Okay. Let's say.
So I never found out what she believed, but I think we got the dog's message just fine. How many people's dogs just freaked out now at the house, or if they're in your car with you, something like that? I bet a bunch of dogs just went nutty butters upon hearing that. Now, I got to tell you this insult I just got. So before the show tonight, and on many a night, I'll post a quick video online kind of promoting what's coming up on the show. So here is the video that I posted. Oh, hang on. I don't have the... There we go. Tonight at 6 o'clock, coming up in just a few minutes, as we're going to be talking about what the appropriate punishment should be for the 21-year-old Massachusetts Air National Guardsman who is now accused of leaking all that intel from the Pentagon. If he is found guilty, what should his punishment be? I'll make my argument for what I think it should be coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. Join us on the radio and call in, use the open mics, and join the discussion tonight from 6 to 7 right here on WDBO. So that was it. That was a video that I posted, and in the comment section, I'm flattened by this. In the comment section, Mr. Such One writes, "Why is your neck so skinny? Do you smoke a lot? You look like a smoker." What a horrible insult. First of all, I'm well aware that I have a giraffe neck. I am well aware that if there probably is a category, Guinness Book of World Record for longest neck, I could qualify. My neck is ridiculously long. I'm well aware of that. I am a tall and slender person. But to say I smoke and I look like a smoker, up until this year, I could honestly tell you I've never had a cigarette in my life. But a few months ago, as I was walking into the building, a couple of my colleagues were outside having a smoke, and one of them just handed me a cigarette, and just for pure shock value, I smoked it. I had 3 puffs of a cigarette. And then I started feeling dizzy, and I said, no, I don't want to have a cigarette. So I've had 3 puffs of a cigarette in the totality of my life, and yet, that person thinks I'm a smoker. I look like a smoker, so I'm a little bit insulted by that. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. A couple more open mics here before we get going, as we're talking about who you can trust and this airman that is accused now of leaking these intel secrets.
All he has to say is that he did it to stop Donald Trump, and he'll never spend a day in jail. That's the culture we live in.
Yeah, that might well be the case.
We're living in a dangerous world right now here in the U.S. The internet, now AI, the lobbyists and handling our politicians. Can't even trust our own media to get the news. We don't know who's telling the truth. I don't trust CNN. I don't trust, sure as hell don't trust Fox News. I get my news from BBC. With a raised eyebrow sometimes because I don't even know if they're telling the truth or not, but I trust it more than what I do here.
You know, some of our older listeners, some of our longer listeners will remember a guy named Neil Bortz. Neil Bortz used to say on the radio all the time, he would say, never believe anything you hear on the radio, including me, he would say, unless you have done your own research and have verified this information to be true. And I always thought that was a great caveat to give. And it's something that I've kind of lived by, and that I generally, particularly now with all of the deep fakes and the AI images, the Pope did not actually wear a big white puffy jacket. That was an AI image. So yeah, I would not believe anything that you see or hear on radio or TV or particularly online. My name is Joe Kelly.